Have you ever questioned why you seldom see an outboard motor with a 10 horsepower rating? If you go through motor listings or visit a maritime shop, you may get engines with ratings of 9.9 horsepower or 15 horsepower. But oddly, there isn't a perfect 10 horsepower engine. We look at what was disclosed today in this video. And trust me when I say that it's not just a coincidence or a marketing gimmick. The unknown 10 HP that has gone missing. Let there be no confusion. Outboard motors with a horsepower rating of 10 horsepower are not now available on the general market. At first look, it would seem as if the makers just left off this number, without providing any specific explanation for their decision. The reality, on the other hand, is altogether something else. Laws and regulations play a significant role in the lack of motors with a horsepower rating of 10 horsepower. A significant number of rules pertaining to boating establish significant limits at precisely 10 horsepower, which results in extra limitations and obligations for homeowners of boats. Manufacturers have purposefully avoided marking engines as having 10 horsepower in order to avoid these issues. Instead, they have chosen to rank their engines slightly lower in order to assist consumers in remaining within the statutory restrictions. Restriction of the engine's power by law. Local and state boating authorities in many nations across the globe, notably in the United States, place stringent limitations on the maximum horsepower that boats are permitted to lawfully operate on specified bodies of water, such as lakes, rivers, and reservoirs. These laws are intended to protect the safety of boaters and the environment. The regulation limit of 10 horsepower is one of the most prevalent and significant requirements that must be met. If the engine on your boat is rated at 10 horsepower or above, you'll often be required to get extra licenses, register the boat with the appropriate authorities, and carry particular safety equipment throughout your boating excursions. In addition to regulating noise and water traffic, these regulations are intended to safeguard the environment and ensure the safety of residents. As a consequence of this, having an engine with a horsepower rating of 10 or above often entails dealing with additional paperwork, expenses, and legal duties in comparison to engines with a rating that is just below this barrier. Why the manufacturers continue to use 9.9 HP. Outboard engines are designed by manufacturers to generate power that is very close to 10 horsepower, yet they are legally rated at 9.9 horsepower. This is done to assist consumers in avoiding the trouble of additional paperwork and regulatory constraints. Due to the fact that it maintains the engine barely below the regulation limit that triggers extra licensing, registration, and safety procedures, this minuscule difference of only 0.1 horsepower is of the utmost importance. Boat owners may take advantage of almost 10 horsepower performance without having to deal with the cumbersome and expensive legal procedures that are associated with engines rated at 10 horsepower or above if they employ this strategy. Both a legal gap and a sensible commercial plan, this ingenious workaround is a cunning workaround. The differences in technology range from 9.9 horsepower and higher motors. It may come as a surprise to learn that many outboard motors with 9.9 horsepower use the exact same fundamental components and engine blocks as bigger motors, such as those with a rating of 15 horsepower. One of the most significant distinctions between these engines is the manner in which they are tuned and restricted throughout the manufacturing process. It is possible, for instance, for manufacturers to install limited carburetors, modify fuel injection maps, or restrict throttle settings in order to lower the official power rating of the engine. In spite of these limits, the mechanical components that are under the surface are often the same. This means that these 9.9 horsepower motors have the ability to generate more power if they're upgraded or calibrated differently, which makes them adaptable and competent engines. In the context of history, there was a time when outboard motors with a horsepower rating of 10 were relatively prevalent and existed in the past. Over the course of the early 1950s, for instance, Mercury manufactured a model that was referred to as the Super 10 Hurricane and had a horsepower rating of 10. It is important to note that these early engines were often rated in a cautious manner, which indicates that their true power output could have been greater than the official number. Over the course of time, as boating rules got more stringent and legal restrictions were placed on engine power, manufacturers started doing away with the practice of designating motors as precisely 10 horsepower. For the purpose of assisting boats and avoiding further regulations and paperwork, they changed the ratings that were slightly below that figure, such as 9.9 horsepower. Experiences of users and restrictions placed on lakes. A great number of lakes, particularly those that are smaller or more recreational in nature, have stringent regulations that prevent boats from utilizing engines that are rated at above 10 horsepower. These limits have been put in place to safeguard sensitive aquatic habitats, decrease the amount of noise pollution that is caused by high wakes, and lessen the likelihood of coastline erosion caused by large wakes. Due to these limitations, boaters are often compelled to utilize engines with a horsepower rating of less than 10 horsepower in order to legally cruise these waterways. As a result of this, you will commonly come across pontoons, fishing boats, and other types of tiny watercraft that are powered by 9.9 horsepower engines. These engines provide adequate power to ensure that boating is both safe and fun, while also adhering to the environmental and safety regulations that are in place in the area. Would it be safe to make changes to your 9.9 HP motor? Changing the carburetors or fuel systems of their 9.9 horsepower engines is one way that some boat owners attempt to unlock more power in their vessels. While this may result in an increase in power, it may also contravene local restrictions and render warranties null and invalid. Before making any modifications to your engine, it is essential to constantly verify the capacity of your boat, as well as the legislation in your area, providing convenience to customers and marketing. A further way to make the motor more appealing to buyers is to label it as having 9.9 horsepower. There is no one who will want to deal with more paperwork or restrictions, which is why the 9.9 HP label seems to be safer and simpler to use. Final thoughts. Remember that the next time you see an outboard engine with 9.9 horsepower, it is not an accident. You may enjoy hassle-free and legal sailing because of the little difference of 0.1 horsepower. In the background, it is a sophisticated solution that manufacturers have devised to strike a balance between power, the law, and convenience of the consumer. We appreciate you watching. Remember to click the bell button, like the video, and subscribe to get further news and information about marine life.